Gee, very much in a card. Comes to pass you? You in good form? It's a good moment, isn't it, just to stop a conference just for a moment, and as we heard, to just reflect on the extraordinary statistic of 500,000 people who are now computer literate in a way that they were not until the day they took the opportunity that was created. And we give thanks to those who created this opportunity, and we particularly give thanks for those who took the opportunity, because without the two we don't have a day like this to celebrate. And it's just wonderful to see the annual conference focusing a little bit of time on this very, very special moment when the ECDL has reached its 500,000th candidate in Ireland. I want to thank Jim Friars and thank Damien O'Sullivan for allowing me to join you on what is a really very important occasion. It's an important occasion for the organisations that gather around ECDL. It's a very important moment for those who have made it their mission, their vocation to deliver this kind of education and training and opportunity to others. But it's also a very important moment for our country, because it gives us a measuring stick as we try and see where are we placed in the world of computer literacy. And we're very well placed, thanks to the work that has gone on, thanks to your mission. It's wonderful actually to think of all the new doors that have been opened up, the new opportunities that have opened up to so many people, simply because, first of all, the opportunity was created for them, and then they had the confidence to take that opportunity. It's a step that has become very, very, very important in recent years. In many ways, it seems like no time since computer skills were a highly specialised area. Computers were massive bodies of engineering that took up huge space. I remember when I did law in university, so we had nothing to do with computers at all. Back in the day, back in 1969, we wouldn't have known what a computer looked like. But interestingly, my husband did physics, starting in university in 1969, and at that time, in the university, one of the leading universities on this island, and I'm sure it was true of all of them at that time, there was no computer. He studied physics. Can you even begin to imagine studying physics today without a computer? It's just unimaginable. At that time, the only computer back in 1969 was a government payroll computer that took up a room about this size. It's now, think about that size. So it's been a very, very rapid transition. And for our kids in particular, it's difficult for them to remember an era when computers were not an integral part of life. They've grown up with it. They see it as the most essential tool connecting us to each other, connecting them to their friends, connecting us to the rest of the world. And in fact, I suppose with the proliferation of computers in every single part of modern life, most of us just go about our business not desperately aware of just how many of our everyday activities are centred around information technology. Whether it's surfing the net, texting, Skyping friends, relatives, dealing with government, dealing with banks, getting online information, booking a holiday, getting your cinema tickets, getting your tickets for a concert, whatever it is, there's just so many aspects of life now that are much easier by virtue of the underpinning of the computer. And because we do it so casually, it would be easy to forget how difficult a space it is, the growing isolation of people who have a fear of computers, who have no knowledge of computers, who do not have computer literacy, who don't have the basic IT skills that so many of us now take for granted. And we've moved so rapidly from being a society where it was possible to get by without computer skills to one where computer skills are used in almost every sphere of life, and it's increasingly difficult to get by, to really fully be entered into life without some degree of computer skills. I mean, the breathtaking speed of technological advancement has meant that keeping up has become very difficult for many people. It's difficult for people who left school early. It's difficult for people who had literacy problems to begin with. It's difficult for those who didn't go to school at a time when ECDL was part of the curriculum. Those who left the workplace, those who retired at a time when you're more likely to have a pen and paper on your desk than a screen. And of course nowadays, with more and more transactions and information available online, and more transactions needing to be completed online, there's a risk that we could become a society where we have, if you like, two types of groups. One group who are information haves and the other who are information have-nots. And the information have-nots being very, very isolated. And that is where the role of organisations like ECDL and ICS Skills are absolutely important, because they bridge that gap. They are the pathway to becoming a have, a person who has that literacy, who has that confidence in the world of computer skills and of information technology skills. So by turning the have-nots into the haves, you're not just teaching people a new skill, though it's a very important skill. It's a bit like learning a language, isn't it? I mean, when you learn a language, you learn the verbs and you learn the grammar and you learn the construct. But to learn another language, you also have a door that opens to another culture, to poetry, music, dance, language, history, narrative. All of those things that are only made available to you because you have the access key that is the language. The same with the computer, but the landscape that opens up is just as wide as you want it to be. I think it was the famous architect Nicholas Negroponte who once said that computing is not about computers anymore, it is about living. And I think that's a very, very, very true statement. It's not just about acquiring a technical skill, an ability not to be scared stiff when you stick in a plug and turn on the machine. I don't know if any of you remember those days when you got your first computer. And we looked at it terrified. I remember there's a story told in the school that my son went to, primary school, at a time when the government, this is back in Northern Ireland, the government gave every school one BBC computer. Anybody remember those days? Ah, yes. Oh no, that's terribly long ago. My son is still only a young adult. And but the headmaster tells the story against himself of the box came, and he and the deputy headmaster, they both opened the box, and then they took out the computer and they plugged it in and nothing happened. And they stood and they looked at it and they read the book, because at my generation, you don't hit any button until you read the book. Whereas kids now, they hit this button, that button, and that button works, well that's what works then. Whereas we are terrified in case it explodes, devours us, eats us, tells us that we're stupid, whatever. But they played around with the box and they could get nothing out of the screen, and eventually they were obliged to go into the classroom where a 7-year-old who was known to have some degree of expertise in computers was invited under pain of secrecy and death to come into the office and tell them what were they supposed to do with this thing. And the kid just looked at him and he said, "Where's the boot-up disc?" And they both went, "What would that look like then?" And so he rummaged around in the bottom of the box and found the boot-up disc, and of course from then on things were terrifyingly good.